Welcome, everyone, to the 2015 Quicken Loans 400 at Michigan Race Review. I recap what went down in the race, um, what went down before the race, and what we could see in 2 weeks from now at Sonoma. But also, I'm going to get into what could maybe help, like, us race fans watch a better show at Michigan, especially after a race like today. So I'll be giving some suggestions for what could make the racing at Michigan better, but also get into some of these strange decisions that NASCAR made, because I feel like there were some peculiar choices that are made, and also some of the theories that are uh, buzzing around. I don't know how big they are, just because this is being done a couple hours after the race is over, so I don't think it's really hit its peak yet. But and also, I will just tell my viewers, or anyone who is just watching this in general, that what I'm saying right here, I could have a different opinion by tomorrow. So don't take this. So don't take everything in this race review as my final opinion. But anyway, I'm just gonna get into what went down before the weekend started, and there was a lot that happened. And first on the list is the possible qualifying changes. This wasn't really that big of a. This wasn't really like this big news story entering the weekend. In fact, I'm sure that there are many NASCAR fans that did not hear about this, but it comes in response after last week at Pocono, where Dan Hamlin spun late in the final round, and there were 5 drivers that were not able to post off just because the red flag was thrown out very late. It was not on time. So there could be a rule change where it's like, regardless of how late it is in the round, all drivers will be able to make their lap, especially if something like that happens again, which I feel like should happen, because I feel like that. I just think it should happen just because I feel like everyone should be able to make everyone should be able to, number one, make their lap, and second of all, complete the lap, especially if they were not, especially if they're not like in trouble, you know. And also, this was possibly the biggest headline, and it was the fact of how Michael Waltrip Racing, and I think this was announced on Monday or Tuesday, Michael Waltrip Racing swaps crew chiefs. So now Clint Bowyer has Billy Scott, and David Riggin has Brian Patty. And this move was made after a struggling season, but especially after a struggling Pocono. And I feel like that these changes, I don't feel like that, like, especially in a race like this today, I don't know if these changes are going to help both of these drivers right away, Clint Bowyer and David Reagan. But I think as time goes on and the chemistry builds, maybe they'll find a new light. But I think it's going to take more than a crew chief change to get both of these drivers, Clint Bowyer and David Reagan, to get better finishes and contend for wins. And I feel like that when I look at both of the drivers, Clint Bowyer finished second in the point standings in 2012 in his first year of Michael Waltrip Racing. So Clint Bowyer and the team is capable of being very consistent and contending for a championship. It just feels like that since then, what's really hurt Michael Waltrip Racing the most, in my opinion, was the whole spin gate situation at Richmond in the fall of 2013. That, to me, really hurt the team tremendously, and since then, they really have not been able to recover. In fact, the last one was with Brian Vickers in New Hampshire in July of 2013, and that was before it. So they were kind of struggling just a little bit beforehand, but that really dealt them in, if you can say it right. And also, some penalty, well, maybe not penalties, some appeals and warnings are here. The 48 team won their appeal on Tuesday for the P1 penalty that was given to them heading into Dover. But however, after Pocono, apparently they received their 4th warning in the season. And if a team gets 6 warnings, then there's a number of different penalties, like suspension of crew chief, or or I think it's like dock points, I believe, but I'm not exactly quite sure about all the possible penalties you can get for getting a P2 penalty. That's going to be something I'll have to look into maybe after I'm done recording this. But it is interesting, though, like Chad now said on Race Hub, I believe it was on Monday, about how it's just like, number one, this laser scanning technology is new, but also some teams are trying to force the limit. But I just feel like that whether you're a big team or a small team, you shouldn't try to be forcing the limit if you know it's going to be against the rules. Like, do these teams actually know that that's going to get them in trouble? Are these teams aware of that? Are these teams aware of things like, oh my goodness, this is off by half an inch. We need to fix this. I wonder if that's the case because sometimes I feel like that in NASCAR, to I think the average fan, when they hear this type of news, they really, and if they like read it or hear about it, they don't hear enough. So I feel like that I don't, I'm not, I don't completely know like all about how like the penalty and laser scanning and all stuff like goes. So I think I would like to know more about that because I think it would just tell me more. I think it would just tell me more. And actually, Jack Roush, I do not have this in my notes, but Jack Roush actually questioned the laser scanning technology. I don't know exactly what he said or what he said about it, but he said that I think it was something like it could actually be like off or something, you know. Okay, I just had to check something right there. And also, uh, after Pocono, after Martin Truex Jr. got the win, and so driving for First Row Racing, the, by next season there could be a manufacturer change because apparently First Row Racing thinks that they're not getting the support from GM, which stands for General Motors. Some of you have probably heard that before, and that company or whatever it's exactly called helps I think like 10 other like teams or like 10 other like uh, big uh, like teams in NASCAR. So and the thing is, their response to all of this was they want them to stay, but First Row Racing thinks that they're still not getting their support. But I feel like that, like maybe after that Pocono win and Martin Truex Jr. he did get another good pitch today at Michigan, I believe. So I feel like that if they can just continue and keep doing what they've been doing, I think they'll stay with Chevy because I think that staying with Chevy would just be the best decision. Because currently, right now, the air manufacturers are just not. They're not up to the level of Chevys. Right now, they're still trying to find like something. So I feel like that if they went to Toyota or Ford, it would not be that. I don't think it would really help the team. It might bring that team from like a winning contender down to like a 10th place car. And under this new chase format, you do not want a 10th place car every single week. That's not going to get you. That's not going to help you win the championship or even make the chase. Uh, and also, entering this weekend, there was just a lot of talk about like the weather, and obviously the weather did play into a huge factor. But I'll get into more about that in a second. But also, the other big news headline was that, and man, there was a lot of these big news headlines this weekend. There could be a new aero package. So basically, in other words, a new rules package that could be introduced by Kentucky. And Kentucky, I believe, is less than a month away from now. Basically, it is some of the big changes are a 3.5-inch spoiler, which is down from 6 engines, a 25-inch radiator pan, down from 38 inches, and a shorter splitter. And this package was actually originally supposed to be run in the All-Star race back in May, but the thing is, apparently, like costs played into that, and it was not able to happen. But this new package was actually tested in Darlington, I think, in the middle of last week. And it seems like most of the drivers who used it, or maybe all the drivers, said that they liked the new package. They said that even though this package does not increase horsepower, it does give them more of that like horsepower feel and how the driver is now really able to like control the car. And some would say that this package might actually give us better racing, but who knows? Who knows? I know that there are still many fans out there that would say just bring back the 2014 rules package, but honestly, I just cannot see that happening anytime soon. Because even in a year like 2014, I still don't think that the racing was that great. I was very disconnected from last season, so maybe what I'm saying should not actually be said. But I just don't feel like that even in 2014 the racing was like perfect, and like, I don't think it was so good that it got to the point to me and most NASCAR fans where it's like, no, we need to leave this. This is just as perfect as it is. That's just my opinion. And I feel like that as far as debuting in Kentucky, part of me thinks that we'll see this in Kentucky. Part of me thinks that this will get pushed back just because like the deal is not finalized yet. And because it is such a big change when you think about it, it still is very hard for me to see that just so soon. But anyway, now let's go on to what happened on racetrack before Sunday. Kevin Harvick won the first practice, and it was a rain-shortened first practice. I think he also won the second practice, but for some reason I did not write that down. Never mind, he did. He did win the second practice. Jeff Gordon won the final practice, and then on Friday, Casey Kane got the pole. His first pole in 90 races, and his first Michigan pole since, I believe, one of the 2010 races. I think it was the fall 2010 race. And Casey Kane, he has won once at Michigan, but it was a rain short-term race in June of 2006. And so he has had some success here in Michigan, but this pole right here, it was very surprising, especially since Kevin Harvick came into speaking as I think he came into speaking as the front runner and actually won the previous first 2 rounds, you know. But anyway, now let's get on to the race. So rain was a huge factor. Like, I think as of last night, it was ranging from 45% to 75% from the scheduled start to finish. And actually, the race actually started 10 minutes earlier, just so that they could get a little bit of the race in. But it still will not have made a difference. Rain was still going to strike the area anyway. And Casey Kane chose the high side. And then they were off. Green flag, and then Carl Edwards led the first lap, but then Casey Kane got back on lap 3. Carl Edwards got back on lap 4. And so in the first 2 laps, 3 lead changes, which I believe is the first time we've seen that this season, on restriction plate racetrack. Caution number 1 for rain in turns 1, 2, but then it spread across the whole racetrack. And then some of the drivers towards the end made pit stops, but then by lap 14, red flag. And then this red flag lasted 59 minutes. And then by the time the caution came out, a couple laps after that, on lap 17, there were some crew members underneath Eric Almirola's car, but I don't think they really went too much into what happened with him. So I don't know what problem he had, but clearly it was an issue that kind of maybe lessened his chances of even like a top 10. But then another red flag was brought out again, and this time this red flag lasted for 34 minutes, and once again it was for rain. And so already 2 red flags in the first 20 laps. And then just before they were about ready to get back racing, Alex Bowman cuts a right rear tire on the backstretch, causing debris to scatter everywhere. So that was a extended cleanup. But then on lap 29, restart, and then right after the restart, heading into turn 1, contact between 3 big names: Denny Hamlin, Logano, and Jimmy Johnson. They all made contact. And these were 3 drivers that really weren't like the big factors. It was literally just like the Kevin Harvick show later on. But anyway, on lap 31, Mark Truex was able to take a second away from Casey Kane. Then we had our second caution, and this time it was a competition caution. And then we had pit stops lap 42. Most drivers took 2 tires, and then some drivers like Jimmy Johnson made extra long pit stops. And the reason for Johnson's case was it was to repair some damage. Carl Edwards didn't have that hassle pit stop. Martin Truex Jr. struggled a little bit, and so drivers like Jeff Gordon. And that gave the lead to Kevin Harvick, who I think I said this last week, but he came into this race with an average finish of 2nd. And Harvick, in fact, his past 4 races have all been 2nd place finishes. And so because of that, I felt like that once Harvick got the lead, he was going to be able to stay there. And just before he got the lead, he was running, I think, inside the top 5, top 10, I believe, but really not going anywhere. So something's telling me that he needed a couple of adjustments and just fresh air. But then just before they go back to the restart, red flag for another shower. And this red flag lasted for almost the exact same time as the last red flag, 35 minutes. And then finally on lap 52, when you combine all the red flags, it is, I'm actually going to 128-minute red flag, so 2 hours and 8 minutes. I want to say that's maybe about like a third of the scheduled distance on TV, actually. But anyway, restart in lap 52, but then once 1 lap later, lap 53, caution number 3. Kyle Busch, running in the 6th position, loses the car and hits the wall coming off of turn number 4. And while I think it was, the car just got out from under him, it was, and the thing is, some people thought that rain was the reason to blame. In fact, I think it was a couple of drivers like Kevin Harvick, most notably, that was really angry with NASCAR for having them on the racetrack so soon. And I could see that being the issue. And the thing is, when it comes to NASCAR's decision in saying like, okay, the track is completely dry, the track is completely dry, or there's no rain on the racetrack. The thing is, they said up in the booth that NASCAR actually has to rely on a couple of people outside the racetrack in all four corners to tell them like, okay, there is no rain. So the thing is, NASCAR can't tell right away if rain is on the racetrack, but I don't think there was, just because it was sunny. It was sunny. In fact, there was not one part of the racetrack at that moment that was covered by clouds. So I don't think that there really was rain, but I'm sure that anyone, especially Kyle Busch fans, are probably going to be upset with NASCAR's decision, and I guess I can't blame them, just because NASCAR decided to let NASCAR decided to let its like field of like 24 cars in the 2001 All-Star race just all go into the first field. Like, do you remember like for some like NASCAR fans, they might remember the 2001 All-Star race, and right away on the start there were all the drivers slipping and sliding, and they went into turn number one. A couple actually wrecked, and to me, if I was watching the race, I definitely would have, because NASCAR should want to be like, oh wait a second, there's still rain. Anyway, and anyway, so it didn't look like a hard, like when I first looked at it, it wasn't a hard look, and it didn't look like that he had like that much damage, but apparently it was enough damage, and I don't think he ever came back out on the racetrack, finished 40. So, and that finished outside the top 36 since his return to NASCAR. And I feel like that, even though since the beginning I didn't think that Kyle Busch would ever make the chase, this really does hurt Kyle Busch's chances, and now it kind of makes it, and now it's going to get to the point where if Kyle Busch continues this, if he is going to make the chase, he now has to win like a couple of races. And I think when I think about Kyle Busch in general, it's that Kyle Busch has been, I think Kyle Busch, even though I really do not like Kyle Busch like at all, Kyle Busch, like, he seems to have a fast car and really can find a way to get up front and stay up front, like top 5, top 10. But it seems like that, like, it's like if Kyle Busch just had like a little bit more of, like this, like speed or just something, then Kyle Busch would be like dominant like every single week. Like Kyle Busch, like I thought, like a fifth place finish, especially for them, is not like, it's not a horrible position, but it's like ever since 2008, it's just not been the same for Kyle Busch. Like it's not that Kyle Busch has been on a huge downfall since 2008. It's just that, like, I don't know if a year like 2008, or specifically the 2008 regular season, if we'll ever see that Kyle Busch again. I just don't think we'll really ever see that. And the thing is, even though, like I said, I don't really like Kyle Busch, I still want to see him run well, just because of everything he has gone through, not only this year, but also some of the huge struggles that he's had in the past couple of years, like last year, But anyway, lap 60, we had a restart, and then lap 64, David Gillen smacks the wall on turn 4. I think he got a tap from Mike Bliss, but that didn't bring out the caution, which was kind of strange because that was actually a pretty hard lift. And then, but then on lap 71, Dale Hart Jr. was actually reporting a vibration, but they never came down pit road. Matt Kenseth got trashed off the grill, and he was running second at the time. Tony Stewart. But lap 78, there were a couple of drivers that actually made some pretty early pit stops that were not like expected, because I guess like around lap 78, there were some drivers that came down pit road sooner than I expected, because they had not had completed their fuel run yet. But once these first couple drivers came down pit road, Tony Stewart, Eric Almirola, and Ryan Blaney, pretty much the rest of the field came down pit road. But during this cycle of green flag pit stops, there were some troubles. Jeff Gordon had to come down pit road for a loose left front wheel. They only got 2 lug nuts on that car, and then Logano actually ran out of gas while he was leading. and that really took him out of contention for winning. Brad Keselowski had some trash on the grill as well. So three big names right there. Dan Patrick led for a lap or two, but then Kevin Harvick got the lead back on lap 98, and then lap 116. Kevin Harvick, he had now he how am I saying this? How am I gonna say this? By lap 116, Kevin Harvick has now officially led 1,200 laps, or 1,200 laps, which is the most by a single driver since Jeff Gordon in 2001. And in that season, Jeff Gordon won the championship. So looks like Kevin Harvick, if that repeats, Harvick will be our 2015 champion, but there's still a long race enough to go. But anyway, lap 118, a second cycle of green flag stuff began, but then all of a sudden, when it looked like nothing could go wrong for Harvick, he has a flat tire. He has a flat tire while leading in turns 3 and 4, doesn't hit anything, but had to come to pit road and had a very long pit stop. I think, one, just because I don't think they expected to come to pit road, but two, they had to probably repair some damage. But then a couple laps later, up 124, caution number 4 from that tire. Then they had pit stop. Then we had pit stops on lap 126. But there were some drivers that were trying to stretch it on fuel, or just drivers that were trying to. You could say they've been saying it a couple times this season, called gambling right here, just in case we do go back racing. Because the thing is, by this point in the race, there was a huge shower coming that if it did strike, it would most likely be the end of the race. The race would have to be shortened. And by the time the thing cycled through, Kyle Larson became the new leader. And Larson was actually going to follow Keselowski, Logano, Palmer, and Carl Edwards. But the thing is, they decided not to because they thought that once they go back racing to green flag, the race should come a couple laps later, and they came super close. But I'll get into that in just a second. Restart lap 130. Kyle Larson gets a huge shove from Kurt Busch, and the Kurt Busch started closing Kyle Larson mainly because I think Kurt Busch had fresher tires or something, or just simply a better car. And then on lap 134, Kyle Larson just comes a couple laps short from winning. Comes down pit road for fuel, and then caution number 5 comes out for rain. So Kyle Larson needed about 4 to 5 more laps on fuel if he would have been able to, my guess, I'm having a hard time explaining myself. Just simply, Kyle Larson was just a couple laps short from getting his first career win. And what's kind of interesting was that when that was happening, one of the first things I thought was how Logano won his first career race in the 2009 July New Hampshire race, which was shortened by rain. And I think Logano also used strategy in that race. So Larson came pretty close to repeating what Joey Logano did, but it wasn't enough. But anyway, so the spring came out, and by this point, the top 10 was Kurt Busch, Dale Jr., Martin Truex Jr., Matt Kenseth, Joe Logano, Brad Keselowski, Jamie McMurray, Paul Menard, Trevor Bayne, and Clint Bowyer. So some surprises in there, such as Bayne and Bowyer, who really were not this strong all day long. And then we had a red flag on lap 139, and this would be the 4th time we had a red flag. I don't remember the last time we had this many red flags in a race. So if someone would like to remind me, then I would be happy to know. But anyway, this red flag. I guess this red flag would be the final red flag of the day, and the thing is, the race was shortened. So Kurt Busch, who was the leader at the time, wins the rain-shortened race. This was his second win of 2005. He becomes the 3rd driver of the season to now have more than one win, and this was also the first rain-shortened race since Michigan in 2006. Casey Kane happened to win that race, but it was also the first rain-shortened race since last year's Coke 0400. Man, I cannot speak today. But anyway, that was the race in Michigan. And one thing I forgot to say earlier was my thoughts on the race. This Michigan race, unless I already said it, I don't think it was that great of a race. In fact, I think this was our 15th race of the season, and I think that this race was possibly at least inside the top 4 worst races of the season, in my opinion. In fact, I might even go on In fact, I might even put this race in the worst race of the season, points race, not the non-points race like the All-Star race, because the All-Star race, in my opinion, was the worst race, and Michigan would count in second probably. But I just think that like the problem with Michigan is that I think that no matter what car you bring, or no matter what type of car you have, or what rules package you bring, at Michigan, it's just that the cars just get so separated so fast. So the thing is, there's not a whole lot of passing after a restart. And the thing is, because there's not a whole lot of passing, there's also not Michigan. It just historically just does not seem to have like those types of issues. Like it's literally like the first two laps after a restart are like the most exciting part of the race. And Michigan races have historically, I don't think Michigan races are known for having like late cautions resulting in green white checkers. I just think that like to me, what I'm curious is that what if we use the restrictor plate? Because the thing is, they said a couple times in practice and qualifying about how you're pretty much just like almost like wide open now because of the new rules package, less horsepower now. Just you're in the throttle more often. So I wonder what happened if you brought like the restrictor plate. And plus, the thing is, I think speed still need to be reduced at this track, especially after what happened last August with Ryan Truex in practice hitting the outside wall very hard, resulting in a concussion. So I just feel like that at some point, I think NASCAR and Michigan International Raceway should find some way to give us a better show. Just because, to me, a race like this, obviously NASCAR or MIS has no control over, like the weather, but I feel like in some ways, like a race like today does not help NASCAR and Michigan at all. It just doesn't, in my opinion. And hopefully some change does get made soon. Maybe with the new rules package that could debut with Kentucky by the time we come back here in August, it could be a different show that could be more exciting. But that's pretty much what I have to say about that. So I guess just in summary, what I would like to see in Michigan, just more pack racing, more like pack racing and drafting. Like the thing is, like just like somehow find a way to make it so that way that like the drivers don't get so far ahead to the point of where it's literally just going to be like a train for almost a full 200 laps. But also, I gotta say this about this race as well. I kind of found it completely useless, like under those first three rain showers that I brought out the 3 red flags about how it was like, oh, the track is dry, let's take them out, and then it's like 5 laps later the rain comes back. I feel like that if the rain is going to come back very shortly, even if it's just 5 laps, here's the thing, even if the race is still just as not as good or boring, I would rather see 200 laps with very little or no rain delays than 200 laps of just constant rain delays. You know what I'm saying here? So yeah, and I just kind of like overall in that I felt very disconnected. And the thing is, by the time this race got under green flag, it just kind of went by a blur. And hopefully, in a year from now, other than like the winner and the rain delay, I don't ever want to really hear or really speak about this race again. But anyway, that's really all I gotta say. And now I'm gonna get into who finished where. So here's the finishing results. First place, Kyle Busch. Second place, Dale Hunter Jr. Martin Truex Jr. finished third. Matt Kenseth fourth. Logano fifth. Keselowski sixth. McMurray seventh. Palmer eighth. Bain ninth. Clint Bowyer finished 10th. 11th was Hamlin. 12th was Carl Edwards. 13th was Casey Mears. 14th was Ty Dillon. 15th was Casey Kane. 16th, Jacob Patrick. 17th, Kyle Larson. 18th, Brian Newman. 19th, Jimmy Johnson. 20th, Austin Dillon. 21st, Jeff Gordon. 22nd, Eric Almirola. 23rd, A.J. Allmendinger. 24th, Ryan Blaney. 25th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 26th, Sam Horse Jr. 27th, Justin Allgaier. 28th, Tony Stewart. 29th, Kevin Harvick. 30th, Michael Lynette. 31st, Landon Castle. 32nd, Cole Whitt. Brett Moffitt finished 33rd. Josh Wise finished 34th. David Reagan 35th. 36th went to Greg Biffle. 37th went to Jeff Burton. 38th went to G.J. Ely. 39th went to Matt Benedetto. Mike Bliss finished 40th. 41st was Alex Bowman. David Gilliland finished 42nd. And dead last was Kyle Busch in the number 18. And so when I look at this finishing order, there were quite some surprises right here. Like, honestly, like, I don't know how much this good finish will help them here, but the thing is, Trevor Bayne's best finish so far this season was 18 twice. I don't remember where those two races, where those finishes came from, but I think even though Bayne didn't have like the speed of a 10th place car, it was nice to see him get a top 10 in what has been a very struggling season. I think Clint Boyer, once again, another impressive top 10, and hopefully this team, after the changes they made, could help them even more. I was also pretty impressed with both Casey Mears and Ty Dillon. In fact, Ty Dillon actually had a top 10 car. So maybe if there was maybe if rain was never a factor, Ty Dillon could have been a driver that would have finished inside the top 10. And as far as like drivers that was sad or disappointed, I think obviously number one on the list was, it's kind of a toss-up between Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, just because of Kyle Busch. He had a good car going right there, but also Kevin Harvick. I think Harvick would have won this race if that tire problem did not happen at all. He really did, and I felt like that he really, out of the whole entire field, Harvick deserved to win. Tommy Stewart kind of disappointed me, just because he was up close to the top 10 after the cycle of rain delays. Ryan Blaney was also kind of a disappointment. Like, at least this time they didn't have an engine failure, but the thing is, they really started to fall off, and hopefully they can do better at next time they're on the racetrack. Jeff Gordon, I think, to me, it's just that, like, it's very hard for me, even though I'm not really much of a Jeff Gordon fan. And in fact, I'll even go out to say that I really did not like Jeff Gordon a couple of years ago. But to me, it's very hard for me to see Jeff Gordon, more so at tracks that he won recently, like such as like Dover, Pocono, and Michigan, to just get more poor finishes here, or finishes that most NASCAR fans would not want to see out of him. Just because, like, Gordon, final season, final full season, one of the greatest drivers in this sport. Some would say is the greatest. And yet, it's just like somehow it's like Gordon's finishing like around 21st, but yet it's like Harvick and Johnson, who have Hendrick equipment, are finishing like first and second. So it's like, it raises the question of like, well, what's going on with Gordon? I just think that Gordon has really not been able to, number one, get a good grip on this rules package, but number two, he just does not seem to be happy with the car. There just seems to be so much going on with that team and himself that it's really hard to get back to where he was, such as last season, where he was very good. But I hope that like something does turn around. I don't want it to turn into a point where it's like Gordon's only shot of winning races is at Daytona and Talladega. I don't want it to become that. Just because I think Gordon can win anywhere, but I feel like now, as I look at the point standings, Gordon, I think, still is pretty comfortable in the points. He has more than a full race over 17th. But the thing is, like, if Gordon is going to finish if Gordon keeps finishing around 20th, regardless of how good his car was, and if drivers like Clint Boyer is going to finish 10th, and Paul Bernard is going to finish 8th, and other drivers like that are close to him, then yes, Gordon is going to start being in like a danger zone. But I hope things do turn around from Jeff Gordon, even though I'm really not that much of a fan of him. But now that leads into our final discussion, I think, and that is, in 2 weeks from now we'll be at Sonoma. It is the final race. It'll be the final race of the season covered by Fox. I think it's an 11-turn road course, but it should actually be 7 turns, just because they skipped. No, wait, not 7 turns, 8 turns. It should be 8 turns, just because they skip turns 5, 6, and 7. No, wait. No, wait, right. It's turns 5 and 6. Wow, I cannot talk today. So the course is like the NASCAR layout. They say that it's an 11-turn road course, but I think it's actually maybe like only like 8 or 9 turns, just because they skipped turns 5 and 6, which was on the original layout. Because the thing is, it goes from turn 4 to turn 7. But anyway, I think as far as a driver that I think could do all there, I'm actually, even though he has not really had the car this season, Jeff Gordon, this is one of Jeff Gordon's better racetracks, and like I think that after this like string of just like mile and a half, 1 mile, 2 mile racetracks of where it's so like big on like aerodynamics and horsepower, I think most of that is going to be like crossed out, um, stuff not to worry about for Sonoma. And I think that because of that, it could give uh, it, it could play more into Jeff Gordon's wheelhouse. Because the thing is, his average finisher here is 7.95. But if we go back to his past 4 races, it's actually been his he has an average finish of 2.0, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s. Not his past 4 races, his past 2 races. So very good finisher right there for her, Jeff Gordon. But if I had to go with anyone else, I would say I don't think I think this could also be a good race for Clint Boyer. One in 2012, and that was his first win for Michael Waltrip Racing. But also has a 9.22 average finish, 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s. So this is one of Boyer's better racetracks, I would say, historically. And I feel like that even though he's really not had that much of it, he's really not had that much. He's not shown that much speed this season, but I think that this could be a weekend like last year at both road courses where AJ Allmendinger has a very strong car. But we'll just have to see. So even though I guess my last note I'll leave out on here is, even though I did not get my 3 race prediction of new winners, I got it wrong at Michigan today with Kurt Busch winning, because for those who watched last week's race review, I said that we would have new winners at both Pocono, Michigan, and Sonoma. While it came true at Pocono, it did not come true at Michigan. I think Sonoma is where we could and we will see a new winner. I have a good feeling about that race. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, even though I really struggled. And that's all I really got to say. So thank you for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and bye.